This chart tracks Mexican music streams on Spotify. Between 2019 and 2022, streams more than doubled, hitting 5.6 billion. Isolating track data brings the scale into focus. In 2023, a single solo artist placed 24 separate songs on the Billboard Hot 100. That studio dominance is now spilling out onto the largest live stages in the world. Acts that historically played local rodeos are now drawing massive crowds in the desert of Coachella and stepping onto the country music stronghold of the Grand Ole Opry. This raises a logistical question. How does a highly localized Spanish-language folk tradition scale up and conquer mainstream global pop culture? The answer comes down to a single phrase: se siguen yendo. They keep leaving. For centuries, the people who play this music have been defined by physical movement and the constant crossing of borders. This global dominance marks the climax of a relentless, centuries-long geographical and cultural migration. To trace that migration, we have to go back to the rural fields of Jalisco in the 16th century. This is the landscape where foundational styles like mariachi were born. From the very beginning, the sound was a collision of cultures. Local indigenous rhythmic traditions were layered underneath imported Spanish and European instruments, like brass trumpets, violins, and guitars. By the 1950s, the golden age of Mexican cinema took these regional folk styles and broadcast them far beyond the local pueblos. Figures like Pedro Infante turned the rural charo aesthetic into an international symbol of Mexican identity. The genre's core DNA is built on survival through relentless adaptation and cultural fusion. This map tracks the massive working-class migration out of central Mexico and into the southwestern United States from the 1970s through the 1990s. The music moved right alongside the workers. Crossing the border introduced new neighbors. In Texas, Mexican musicians encountered European immigrants and adopted the German accordion, creating the heavy, rhythmic signature of norteño music. Meanwhile, mariachi was finding a massive new audience stateside. Crossover figures like Vicente Fernandez brought stadium-level star power to the growing Mexican-American diaspora. By the 1990s, artists like Selena Quintanilla were blending traditional Mexican styles with American pop and R&B. The resulting Tejano boom proved there was a lucrative crossover market. At the same time, the grupero subgenre began stripping away the acoustic setups, bringing in electronic synthesizers and electric guitars to connect with younger, urban audiences. The music industry was forced to adapt to the sheer volume of listeners. Billboard created dedicated charts, and American radio stations rapidly flipped their formats to broadcast the music full-time. The migration north turned a rural folk tradition into a commercial diary, documenting the daily lives of a displaced workforce. In the 2000s, the diaspora pushed further, moving deep into the American Midwest and East Coast. The music quickly adapted to these industrial environments. In Chicago, local Mexican-American artists sped up the tempo and incorporated heavy brass synthesizers to create duranguense, a hyper-specific subgenre built entirely away from the border. Down in Florida, modern independent artists spend their days working on construction sites in high-vis vests, and their nights recording pop-infused corridos. This music functions as a real-time documentation of specific hyper-local realities, mutating wherever the diaspora settles. In the 2020s, that constant mutation resulted in corridos tumbados. A new generation of artists, led by figures like Peso Pluma, took traditional acoustic guitars and married them with modern trap and hip-hop cadences. Because the rhythmic structures are so adaptable, these artists seamlessly collaborate with global pop and reggaeton stars without losing their signature sound. The industry still categorizes all of this under the umbrella term of regional Mexican, but a genre that consistently dominates the global charts has outgrown that label. Se siguen yendo. The momentum never stops. The power of the music lies directly in its refusal to stay geographically or sonically still. Música Mexicana conquered the world by fearlessly carrying its authentic, hard-working roots across every physical and cultural border it encountered.